in demonizing all establishments and all people who wear a tie like you and me to work and have a good education, we are breaking down the legitimacy.
Huh. I didn't know that the establishment was anyone wearing a tie. Interesting.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio,
Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Former President Bill Clinton is out with a new memoir about his time post-presidency. I'm sure there's a chapter on his time not visiting Jeffrey Epstein's island. I digress. But he had some interesting words defending the political establishment, as well as scolding Bernie Sanders and denying the Democratic Party has completely lost touch and abandoned the working class. Let's start with his defense of the establishment. Hint, don't think he actually understands why people are against the establishment.
I think that in demonizing all establishments and all people who wear a tie like you and me to work and have a good education, we are breaking down the legitimacy of not only people who may be too sanctimonious and too set in their ways in the past, but also people who actually know things that are very important for us today and very important for our continued growth and prosperity and harmony. Politics.
Huh. I didn't know that the establishment was anyone wearing a tie. Interesting. So, of course, former President Clinton, cat's out of the bag. Hillary's dunzo. No chance of ever having another political position. He's obviously off into the sunset. So I don't really think they're trying to pretend who they really have represented for the last 30, 40 years. Clintonism, neoliberalism. I think he's just all out embracing it. But hint to Bill Clinton, if he doesn't already know this, he probably does know this. People's disdain with neoliberalism, the Democratic Party, Clintonism, which in many ways still represents the Democratic Party. I think Kamala Harris's campaign and her proposals were fairly neoliberalism and a kind of a remake or a rehash, dusting off, old Clintonite policies. People aren't against establishments or don't think of the establishment as people who wear ties or have education. I went to college and graduated. A lot of people who supported Bernie or Trump went to college or got a degree in something. That doesn't make you the establishment. What people very much vehemently oppose is corrupt government, which Bill Clinton helped put jet fuel on from Reagan. People very much oppose establishments like Wall Street banks, multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates, writing trade deals like NAFTA for the politicians, for which President Clinton then rubber-stamped to send jobs for the blue-collar workers, white, black, brown, to other countries. That's what people are talking about and considering the establishment. It's not people who wear ties. It's not people who are educated. It's not people who know things that are, quote, valuable to the economy. It's corrupt corporations, corrupt special interests, the lobbyists, Joe and Mika, and the corporate media cabal, like that softball interviewer there, Jonathan Capehart, who was fluffing pillows with Clinton and didn't ask him one hard question. That's who people consider the establishment, not wearing a tie, not people who know things. I'm pretty sure Clinton knows that, but he wants to, play dumb and say, all this demonizing of people who know things, people who are educated. That's not what people are upset about. But his ignorance didn't stop there. He also had quite a response to Bernie Sanders, who obviously came out after the election saying that the Democratic Party abandoned the working class. So it should be no surprise when the working class abandoned the Democratic Party. He also came out over the weekend. I did a video on it. Sure seems hinting at potentially getting involved with or starting a third party. Check out that video I did. Let's take a listen to Bubba Clinton on where the Democratic Party goes from here and why he disagrees with Bernie Sanders in terms of the Democratic Party not catering or doing enough for the working class.
So then where is the Democratic Party going from here? Because Senator Bernie Sanders, who doesn't even belong to the Democratic Party, says that the party wasn't progressive enough. Do you see it that way?
No. I mean, look at not progressive enough. The infrastructure bill. There's 60,000, I think, projects underway. They'll soon be up to 100. And the CHIPS bill, they're all over America. And interestingly enough, both those bills, a majority of the investments have been in rural red areas. If you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, that benefits everybody. You know, what they do in the $35 per month limit on insulin and the $2,000 a year limit on medical costs. So, no, I don't think, I think he means by that we should have been more against big corporations. And if you take a poll, you find people in both parties really do favor that. That's why we can always pass a vote on raising the minimum wage in a red state. Because blue-collar workers who distrust the government feel like those votes are something they can control. And they are skeptical of big corporations. On the other hand, the richest guy in America, maybe the world, Elon Musk, is up there listening on foreign phone calls with the president-elect, and they're not too concerned about it. I do not agree that our problem is that we're not left-wing enough. But we haven't connected with them enough. And there are a lot of reasons, including we have to figure out how to protect our channels of communication to small town and rural America from the ease with which the Republicans trigger their fears. You know, 90% of the people in America are for background checks on gun purchases. And yet, all these years after the Brady Law passed, when I signed it in '93, we still don't have a really comprehensive background check law.
Okay, enough of that. Where do you even begin? Where do you even begin with this guy? Who, again, you might say, why are we playing clips of Bill Clinton? Because Clintonism still is controlling the Democratic Party. I believe Kamala Harris pretty much ran a 1990s Bill Clinton campaign with technocratic neoliberal policy proposals. But when he says, no, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders. Look at the infrastructure bill that created 60,000 projects. He cites the CHIPS bill, which is going to help in the future. Well, how does any of that reverse this, Bubba? How does any of that reverse this, which you notice how in the 1990s, that red line started skyrocketing? That's the top 0.01%. And that orange line, the top 1%, it was already skyrocketing in the 80s, but it was like jet fuel in the 90s under Bubba after he answered Reagan's deregulation, union busting, privatization with, hey, I like that. Let's do that more with the Democratic Party. The infrastructure bill does nothing about stagnant wages. The infrastructure bill might have created some temporary jobs. Doesn't do anything about the 40-year inflation, housing costs, gentrification, i.e. economic terrorism. It doesn't do anything about people going bankrupt from high medical bills, which Bubba Clinton's wife, Hillary, she once upon a time in the early 90s was trying to propose a universal health care program that failed. And then Obama provided a affordable health care plan, which is not affordable. It was a giant wet kiss to insurance companies. But he's talking about things that might help in the future. And by the way, the infrastructure deal was a massive privatization scheme. So a lot of those bridges that were being built and roads that are being built, in exchange for that, a lot of your public waterways and wastewater systems and public utilities were sold off to private companies. They left that out in Kamala's ads or Biden's ads. So he has no idea or no care at all what average working class people are going through, because they don't feel the infrastructure bill or the CHIPS bill. When he says the Inflation Reduction Act, his words, that benefits everyone. When you look at $35 cap on insulin, $2,000 cap on prescription drugs, is he unaware that that only applies to seniors? When he says that benefits everyone, those things in the Inflation Reduction Act were only for seniors. Not a bad thing to cap insulin at $35, but how do you declare that some humongous victory when it's only for one age of people? It should be all for all people. It is for all people in most other countries. And by the way, Bill Clinton might not realize, for a lot of seniors, $2,000 is way too much in out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs. That might seem like a victory compared to the out-of-control cost now, but for a lot of seniors who live on, SSDI and literally are barely getting enough from their Social Security, Medicare, $2,000 is not some victory to cap out. They can't afford that. When he says our real issue is our communication with rural America and stopping them from buying into the fear of Republicans, well, maybe people would not be so susceptible to the fear if they had a safer economic floor. When you don't have an economic floor, when you don't have enough safety nets, when you are economically vulnerable and anxious, the idea of the other, or blaming this group of people, or buying into conspiracy theories, or being hoodwinked by fake populists. And this is not only about America, this is happening all over the world as right-wing autocrats rise and fake populism hoodwinks the masses. It also happened throughout history. But when people are economically stuck, economically destitute, economically desperate, economically hopeless, it's fairly easy to buy into fear. It's very easy to buy into, right-wing fever dreams. And by the way, when he talks about, 90% of America supports background checks, but still to this day, 30, 40 years after I signed the Brady bill, we can't get universal background checks. Well, by that standard, if he says, hey, if an overwhelming majority of people support something, we need to push it through. Is he aware that polls show nearly 70% of Americans support universal health care? Might not be 90%, but 70% is pretty good, including the majority of independents, majority of Democrats, and in some polls, nearly the majority of Republicans. I wonder why, for background checks, we could use that as a standard because 90% support it. But for universal health care, how are we going to pay for it? Because Bill Clinton is still living in the world of we need to bow fealty to the donors. He is the very individual, him and Al Gore and the other ghouls that were part of the Democratic Leadership Council at the end of the 80s. And by the way, the Koch brothers helped fund that. They are the ones that moved the Democratic Party to cater towards Wall Street and special interests and public-private partnerships, i.e. privatization and deregulation. Not the people who wear ties, not people who are educated. I got no problem with anyone wearing a tie. I got no problem with people who are educated. A hell of a lot of educated. There were a lot of people that graduated college were out at Standing Rock, are out protesting Black Lives Matter movements. or we're out for George Floyd, or we're out, organizing for healthcare, saving the planet. The beef is not with people who wear ties or have a college education. The beef is with political hacks and corrupt ghouls like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, who's a fake populist and ain't going to do shit for you. Sorry, MAGA. Who are literally selling government policy to the highest bidder. That is the actual beef. And when Bill Clinton goes out there talking about, we shouldn't demonize all establishments, I'm pretty sure he knows who the real establishment is. And a quick reminder, if you need to know, Bill Clinton, did you know that he once owned slaves when he was Arkansas governor? Did you know? Shout out to Current Affairs for this friendly reminder. This is from an article Current Affairs wrote. Clinton was, however, generous enough to allow inmates from Arkansas prisons to work as unpaid servants in the governor's mansion. In It Takes a Village, Hillary Clinton writes, the residence was staffed with African-American men in their 30s, since using prison labor at the governor's mansion was a long-standing tradition, which kept down costs. It is unclear just how long-standing the tradition of having chained black laborers brought to work as maids and gardeners had been. But one has no doubt that as the white residents of a mansion staffed with unpaid blacks, the Clintons were continuing a certain historic Southern practice. Hillary Clinton did note, however, that she and Bill were sure not to show undue lenience to the servants, writing that we enforce rules strictly and sent back to prison any inmate who broke a rule. This is the man who wants to talk about, let's not demonize the establishment. Until the Democratic Party rids itself not only of the donors, but Bill and Hillary and Chuck and Nancy and all the donors that run the whole roost, they're going to continue losing to Trump and, whoever becomes Trump's heir, whether it's J.D. Vance or Tom Cotton or whomever the next set of MAGA is. They might win some elections. The pendulum might swing back and forth. But at the end of the day, Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump 2-1. She lost. I don't know the number, but Kamala Harris significantly outspent Donald Trump. She lost. The donors are not a guarantee to victory. Outspending and raising more cash is not a guarantee to victory, but it is a guarantee to paying your consultants very, very fat commissions. It is a guarantee to the operatives that no matter how many times they lose elections for Democrats, keep coming back with their fat contracts, political campaign aides, advisors, campaign managers, pollsters. The lawyers get paid a shit ton of money from the Democratic donors to launch an arsenal of lawsuits against third-party candidates like Jill Stein, Cornel West, to keep them off the ballot and to water them down in legal suits so they can't actually build a campaign. Bill Clinton, I don't care if you wear a tie or not. You are the establishment, and you are one of the pivotal players in 20th and 21st century America that made this the United Corporations of America. Go away. And thank you for watching. Before you spend money on Black Friday and early Christmas and Hanukkah presents, please, please, please sign up as a member of Status Coup. Sign up as low as $5 a month. StatusCoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. And right now we have a special deal for members that become members at $20 a month. The first 20 members who sign up at $20 a month will get a special free copy of my book, We the Poisoned, signed with a personal note from me. And for members that sign up at $10 a month, you'll get a free United Corporations of America sticker. Sign up, StatusCoup.com/join.